Hey everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day. So, today what I want to do is I actually want to do a redo of yesterday's seed starting video because yesterday I did the video outside. I was sitting on the porch. I thought it would be nice to be out in nature. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, there's a breeze blowing, and I thought it would be nice. Turns out yesterday it was really windy, so that breeze blowing was so loud that you could barely hear my voice in some parts of the video. And I'm telling you, there were two birds that were on the line right outside the power line. They were singing so loud, you would have thought that they wanted to be part of the video. And it didn't seem so loud when I was doing the video, but when I played it back, oh, it was so loud. I mean, they sounded great, but obviously they had their own opinions. Anyway, so I figured today, since we're having another windy day, it feels really, really windy outside. We're having a really strange spring. I'm not sure what this spring is all about. And I complain about this every year, but it is kind of a strange spring. But I figured since it's really windy outside, then we would do the video inside, just to avoid all those noises and things like that. And then hopefully tomorrow and Friday and Saturday it's going to warm up. So hopefully we'll be able to get back out into the garden and do a little gardening. This should be fun. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about seed starting. So I'm here with my seeds. I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see them a little bit. So here I am with my little seedlings. And yeah, I know they look a little bit rough. Some of them look a lot rough. And there's an explanation for that, and there's some lessons learned. So we're going to talk about that today. So I invested kind of heavily this year in seeds. I did in my garden tour that you probably already saw already. I did seed starting outside, and I got a lot of success. I'm really impressed with that. I've never gotten so much success with seed starting before, so that was really impressive. But I also did some seed starting indoors, and I figured, okay, I don't have a seed starting setup, no heat mats or grow lights or anything like that. I just have, my house, a few windows, some soil and some water. So I figured I would use that because I figured here's my thinking. My thinking was that my parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents they planted seeds all the time. Sometimes they planted seeds indoors and they did not have heat mats. They did not have grow lights. They didn't have a seed setup, a seed starting setup. They didn't have all that technology. My parents are from the silent generation. There wasn't that technology when they were young. They just had their homes. Well, okay, granted, my parents grew up in a tropical country, so they had a little bit more than we have, but still they had their homes, they had windows, they had all that stuff. So that was my thinking. So I figured I'm going to use my home with my windows and everything that I have. And I ended up with this. So there are some lessons to be learned. I wanted to do seed starting because plant prices are really expensive and they're getting more expensive every year. So I want to have some options. And with seed starting, you can get a range of seeds and you can just try different things. So, like I said, there are lessons learned, but let's go through what seeds I started. So, I had the first one I'll show you one that's doing well. The first one I started was we had pansies. So the pansies are doing really well. I was a little bit concerned about starting pansies, and let me explain why. For us, I don't know about anyone else, but for us, when we start pansies, we usually pansies are usually a spring flower, so they thrive in the cold. But starting them from seed, they take a long time. They germinate relatively quickly, but they take a long time to mature to the point where they're flowering. I started these in I think February, late March, and they're doing okay. But like I said, they take a long while. They take their time to be ready to flower. So I'm a little bit concerned that by the time they're actually ready to flower, like I'm going to put them out, but by the time they're ready to flower, it's going to be warm. Once June and July hits in August, but usually by June and July for pansies, if they're not under a protected spot, they're going to fall apart. They just can't handle the heat and the sun, especially in our area. We get a fair amount of rain, but we also get long stretches sometimes when it's just hot and dry, and the only watering they get is when we water them. And the sun beating down, they just can't handle it. So a lot of times people will plant these under a tree where there's lots of foliage, I think I have one spot in the front yard. There's little pom-poms, evergreen pom-poms, and right under them, there's space there, but it's pretty much full shade there. So maybe I'll plant them there and see how they do. So we have pansies, and then we have this one. This one I'll show you its flowers. This is larkspur. So I've never grown larkspur before. This is my first time. I wanted to try something different. But you see how tall it is? I should mention I started all these things in different locations. Like a couple of them I started in the basement because they needed something to be cold to germinate. One of them I'm going to show later, the phlox, I started in my bedroom because they needed someplace warm. And a couple I kept in the kitchen and in the dining room just to try to give them what they needed. Once they started sprouting and growing, of course they started getting a little bit leggy. So I put everything in the kitchen window because my kitchen window it's hard to explain, but it's kind of surrounded by glass. So it gets the most sunlight in the house in the kitchen window, comes through the kitchen window. So I figured I'd put them there, and that's where they've been since they started sprouting. But even in the kitchen window, it really wasn't enough to keep them well nourished enough not to get leggy. So that was the larkspur, and then I'll show you my phlox. This is the phlox, and it's flowering, very pretty, different colors. So I'm going to plant these out. I don't know how they're going to do because they're very leggy and they're dry on the bottom. It's really hard to keep them moisturized in these containers because they don't have that much soil. So I'm going to try. We're going to have some warm days, so I'm going to try to put them out and we'll see how they do. And then I did sweet peas. So here they are. And these were a lot taller, but I clipped them back yesterday because they were getting brown on the edges and they were leaning over. They're actually going to have to be trellised at some point when I put them out. So I'm going to put them in a nice little container with a trellis that they can climb on. So again, something else I've never grown before, but this seemed like fun. And then the one I'm most ashamed of is the one I just showed you. This is verbena. Yeah, look at this verbena. Cry for this verbena because this verbena is very sad. So this verbena is going to be the first thing that I plant out. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I've grown verbena before, and verbena is really pretty. It grows in different colors. It grows vibrantly. It's an annual, so it's only going to last through the growing season. But it grows very vibrantly in the landscape. And last year I tried it in the new flower bed we have in the backyard, and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. So those are my seedlings. So I am going to, well, I could talk about each of them. Let me show you each of them what they're going to look like, what they should look like. If I can find, here they go. So here are the sweet peas. This is what the sweet peas would look like. I was supposed to do this while I was talking about them. Sorry, guys. This is what the sweet peas would look like. And then the larkspur. And do you like how I put the instructions for each on each packet, so I'd know. The larkspur wanted a cool, dark location. They took 8 to 10 weeks before the last frost. That's when we're supposed to plant them. Oh, that's the other thing. I planted these. Each of these I planted around February because I figured they'd be ready to roll by spring. So we'll get into that in the lessons to learn part. And then it just goes to how many days of germination and how deep to plant them. This is what the pansies would look like. So hopefully we get the pansies to this point. And the verbena. And I don't have a picture of the phlox because the phlox came in a variety pack and I threw the envelope away a while ago before I realized I should make this video. But the phlox, as you can see, the phlox is multicolored. So this is the phlox. So you can see what it's going to look like if it ever gets back to a healthy state. So my plan is to plant these out somewhere in the garden. We still have space, so some can go in containers. I think Mom wants some too, so some will go in her containers in the front. Some will go in my backyard, my flower bed that I'm consistently trying to get to look like a cottage garden. We're gonna try again. We're gonna throw everything but the kitchen sink in that yard, in that garden bed, and see what happens. Anyway, So those are the seeds that I used. These are the seeds that I didn't use. Well, okay. I have English daisy. I did actually plant English daisy seeds, and they started to sprout. So then I went, because with each of these, once they started to sprout, I started looking up how to take care of them until it was time to plant them outside, how to plant them outside, and things like this. And I came across the fact that English daisies are actually invasive in the Northeast and in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm in the Northeast. I garden in outside New York City in Zone 7B. So technically, I'm in the Northeast. So once I found out that these were invasive, they spread by seed and by rhizome, and they're really hard. Once they catch, they're really hard to control in some areas. And I didn't want to take any chances. I was gonna grow them and just keep them in containers, figuring maybe they're like mint, and mint is cool as long as you keep it in a container. But I don't know much about these, and I didn't want to take any chances, so I decided to just let them go. So they dried out just because I forgot to water them, and I just let them go. So I didn't end up planting these, and I didn't end up planting forget-me-nots. And it turns out that forget-me-nots, I don't know if they're technically invasive, but there's a reason they're called forget-me-nots, because forget-me-nots will reseed themselves and will spread so vigorously that you will not forget them. They will remind you because they'll come back every year, whether you want them to or not. And I didn't want to mess with that. So those are the ones that I did not plant. So let's talk about the lessons learned really quick. So the first lesson learned is, okay, I'm gonna fold next year, and I'm gonna get the seed starting set up. I'm gonna get the heat mat. I'm gonna get the grow lights. I'm gonna find a space where they're out of the way. They're not in anybody's way. They're not bothering anybody, and nobody has to see it, because we might want to have company over. You don't want company to come over to grow lights and seed starting. Well, maybe you do, but that's not always what you want. So I'm going to make sure I have a space for it, and I'm going to bite the bullet and get the seed starting set up. It's not that expensive. I can start small, and eventually I can build up each year, so I have a setup where I can actually start seeds properly and get them outside. I think it's time. I've been gardening for about 4, maybe 5 years. I think it's time to step up and get the seed starting set up, so I don't end up with these again. I end up with nice, thick, vibrant seedlings that I can put outside. The second lesson learned, I think, and this is just going to be pure experimentation, I think I'm going to start seed starting a little bit later next year. Because this year I believe it was mid to late February. I have to go back and look at the picture. I actually took a picture of the seed packets the same night that I started everything. So I have to look at the date on this picture, but I'm pretty sure I started mid to late February, thinking that by this time we'd be able to plant them. Now, one thing about my area, like I said, I'm in the Northeast. I'm in Zone 7B. So most people around here don't start planting until around Mother's Day. Um, a little bit before, usually after Mother's Day. It's usually the safest. Our last frost date is April 5th, but between April 5th and Mother's Day, anything can happen. Now, I like to take chances, so I plant a little bit earlier than that. I usually start with perennials, and then as it gets closer to Mother's Day, a little bit toward the middle to later part of April, I'll start putting out annuals. Just because when I do, I check the 10-day forecast. I check everything I can just to make sure there's not that much of a chance of a frost. I got caught this year, and I did have to go out one night. There's a picture in my somewhere on Instagram that I had to go out, and I had to cover my plantings because it went down to 35 degrees. I wanted to make sure everything was protected. Thank goodness everything was okay, and we didn't have that much out, so I just had to cover one bed and the geraniums on the front porch to make sure that they were okay. But usually, once we get to Mother's Day, we're okay. Usually, I plant a little bit earlier, and I just watch everything, and so far, so good. I haven't been disappointed. What I'm going to do next time is that being said, knowing that some of these tender seedlings are tender by nature, so some of these seedlings are not going to be able to go out while it's still chilly outside, I'm going to start planting next year maybe in March, maybe mid-March, maybe late March. Because here's the thing, I would rather be a little bit late and have these things grow up a little bit late and then have to find some place to squeeze them in than to go have another year where they grow like this and I have to worry about whether I can use them or not or how they are. To me, it's just a waste of seed. If I know that I'm going to have an issue again next year, or I could have an issue again next year, why would I waste the seeds and plant early when I can just wait a little bit? There's no rush. Once if they're healthy and it's warm enough to get them outside, then once they get outside, they're gonna grow. When the heat, the warm air, the sunshine hits them, they're gonna grow and they're gonna be healthy. So I think I'm gonna delay seed starting a little bit longer next year. And I think those are my lessons to learn. Um, so the next step right now is to harden them off before I put them outside. So the let's talk about hardening off. We're going to start getting some warm days, and I'm hoping this is the end of the chill. I'm going to check the 10-day forecast, but I'm hoping this is the end of the chill, and our temperatures start to really consistently get warmer. Now, what I don't want to do with seedlings that have been inside my house since they sprouted, since I planted them, so they've been inside my house since February. That's February, March, April, May, 3 months. What I don't want to do is I don't want to take these tender seedlings, especially in the state that they are right now, and plant them out tomorrow in the garden um, without any preparation. That would not be fair to them, and that would not be giving them the right start. What I want to do is I want to get them accustomed to being outside. So what I'm going to do, I started last night, and I think I'm going to do this after the video, is I'm going to take them outside, and I'm going to leave them outside for a little while. I'm going to leave them outside. I left them outside maybe 20 minutes last night. Tonight, maybe I'll leave them outside for 40 minutes. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit warmer, so maybe I'll take them outside at lunchtime. I come home for lunch sometimes, so maybe I'll take them outside at lunchtime and let them stay until I come home and then bring them in. The point is to slowly get them accustomed to being outside so they can build resiliency. Because inside, they haven't had to deal with any of the elements. They haven't had rain, they haven't had wind, they haven't had a chill. They were on my kitchen window, but the kitchen window is kind of warm because we cook in the kitchen all the time. So they haven't had any elements. So they haven't been able to build any strength and any resiliency. So we want to give them a chance to build that and to get used to that, so that once you put them in the ground or in pots, they're good. Because once they go in the ground and once they're in pots, that's permanent. They're set for either the season if they're annuals or their lifetime if they're perennials. So we want to kind of be mindful of that. All right. So the same way we build resiliency through the experiences that we go through and that we conquer, we want our plants to build that resiliency too. So that's the plan. So I'm going to start hardening them off, and then hopefully by next week I can actually plant them in the ground. We'll have to find spaces for them. So that's about it. So I wanted to show you just a couple of next steps, some things that I might plant in the next couple of weeks. We are kind of running out of space in the landscape, but I still have that big garden bed in the back that I want to pack out. When I tell you I'm going to pack that thing out, I am going to throw everything in that garden and see how it works. We really have to see how it works because that garden is part shade because of the tree. But I think I think there's a lot that I can put in there, especially a lot of flowering and colorful plants. I really want to bring some color to that garden this year. And then we still have space in the raised bed. We've got lots of containers in the front, and I'm going to do my container garden in the side, and I might intersperse some flowers in between the vegetables, depending on how they grow, because I want to introduce lots of pollinators to the vegetables also. So that being said, I have some seed packets that I'd like to start. I might start them if I get to them. If not, then I'll save them for next year, but hopefully I'll be able to get them. So I've got some zinnia, and this one is a zinnia mix, so they're different kinds. I grew this once before. I love zinnia, but I'm also a little bit wary of zinnia because some of the larger varieties grow really tall really quickly, and they become a little bit difficult to control. So I want to avoid that. But I think this one, well, let's just say this one, I'll keep an eye on this one if this is what I plant. I also have another zinnia, and I think this is a smaller variety. It's the cut and come again mix, and I have grown this one before, and it's a little bit smaller. So I might just grow a mix of the two. More of this one because it's smaller and it's easier to control. Um, it's a little bit late, but I want to see if I can start hollyhock. Um, it's supposed to sow outdoors in early summer. Yeah, so I think I want to start hollyhock. This is a perennial, so it'll be good and it'll be something to come back. And it's a good idea because although annuals are bright and they're colorful, they're annuals. They come back. They don't come back. They're only once a year. So what I want to do is I want the bones of my garden to be perennial. Let's say 60% of the garden to be perennial. So those are the things I can depend on and that will come back. And the things that I'm spending money on, the annuals every year, will be the 40%. That'll be a little bit less. So I'm not, making myself broke just to have a bright, pretty garden. And it'll be nice to add some good bones to the garden. And then I also have the dwarf hollyhock, and I'd like to try alyssum also. So those are some things I'm going to try, and I'll sow those seeds in a video so I can bring you guys along. And that is it. That is my seed starting journey. Just so you see, this is just one of my seed packet bags. There's another one with just vegetables. And there's some vegetables in here. When it comes to seeds, I've lost control. But that's okay, because I'm enjoying it. So that's it for my seed starting video. And I'm glad you guys joined me for this one. If you like this video, please like and share with your friends, because I'd really like to take as many people along on this journey as I can. But in the meantime, I'm going to go make some dinner and relax, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.